As you can see, I'm not the Lieutenant Governor, the chair of this group. I'm the vice chair, and so I'm filling in for her today. She wasn't able to attend because we do have just a single item and a fairly short meeting. I will take a quick roll call. Just answer, please, if you're here. Dr. Kate Bean?
Present.
Alicia Belton?
Present.
James Garrett?
Present.
Hannah Hills? James McLean? I think you were here, James, answering. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Melanie McMahon?
Here.
Representative Cleburne?
Present.
Representative Schultz?
Present.
Senator Nelson? Senator Pappas?
Here.
And I, Vice Chair Dana Badgerow, am here. We only have one item, as I mentioned, on our fairly short agenda, which is the proposed replacement of the John Ireland Boulevard Bridge. And I just wanted, before we get started, commend everyone involved in this project because it's been a wonderful example of cooperation to get us where we are here today. We had a bridge that needed to get built and redone because of structural and other reasons, and we have a capital mall design framework that we want to work it into. So I think we've got a way to go forward. And with that, I'll turn it over to Peter. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Peter, you want to
Thank you.
You'll introduce our other speakers.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vice Chair Badgerow, and I will introduce our speaker and resources in 1 minute. First, some background information and helpful context before we move into hearing from the MnDOT Bridge team. You see the larger agenda of the day. Eric has set this for about half an hour. That's the goal, including discussion. Moving to an agenda item with a longer resolution that we'll go through. Next slide. Staff would like to check in again that you have the information for the meeting. You've been emailed, and it's also on the CAP board website. Thank you for Jesse to do this. Several items, including staff memo, report from MnDOT with the overview, their engagement process, design alternatives, the findings from the Section 106 as a federal undertaking commitments letter from the MnDOT for next steps, and then the city's position on this project and their willingness to step forward soon, and then also some drawings. Those are also all on our website and have been posted and have been emailed to you. Make sure that you either email or let us know if you don't have that information. Next slide, please. So today, staff will provide an overview, and then our MnDOT staff partners will present the design under consideration, and then we'll have time for questions and discussion before we look at the suggested board action. Next slide. Our statute outlines the duty for advisors, staff, and board members to review and approve any substantial change in the capital area. This action is really two parts. One is to say that we've reviewed, and the action proposes approval of the current bridge design that's been under formulation. It also certifies that staff has been and advisors have been working with MnDOT and the city on this project for 4 years, and they have crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's in terms of engagement. Next slide, please. So, board members, as Matthew Parent will be able to speak to next, the bridge over John Ireland was originally constructed in 1967 and was retrofitted in the early 1990s, following the last time CAP board developed a vision for the Capitol Mall. The bridge now enjoys 4 gatehouses that signal an arrival at the mall and campus, with railings and the median designed to be compatible with the design of the longer John Ireland Boulevard. This is one of 9 bridges over the interstate commons in the capital area, and along with the Cedar Avenue Bridge, one of the 2 most prominent and most traveled that visitors, workers, and community members get to enjoy each day. The gatehouses and railings were designed through a large international competition for the mall conducted in 1990, and then formed the vision behind the previous Capitol Mall design framework to the one that we just approved. One of the international pool of jurors was a French architect named Leon Creer and a University of Notre Dame professor team, including my professor there at the time, Tom Rajkovic, won the competition, and as the phase one, designed the bridges in partnership with the regional firm. By the way, for a sense of timescale, all this was in the first year or two of Paul Mandel's career as planner at CAAPB, and Paul would tell us that the competition and subsequent implementation of the vision was not without controversy. This was mainly over the grade of materials used and extent improvements along the interstate corridor. The proposed design for the bridge replacement modernizes clearance, safety, and accessibility standards, leaves in place the gatehouses, restores the central grass median, upgrades the railings and lighting to 2024 codes, and maintains existing thoroughfare, including 4 traffic lanes, bike lanes, and sidewalks. This is a federally funded project and is one of several projects MnDOT has been bringing through a required community engagement process. CAAPB has been involved since the beginning, and I can report that the MnDOT process has been extensive, as documented in their community engagement report. CAAPB's original direction to MnDOT was that if their plan to restore the bridge structure, width, and functional elements of the thoroughfare, and if it retained the classically articulated railings and lights, it would not trigger any of the CAAPB's requirements or any need for a larger design competition beyond the normal consultant selection process that they did go through. And that the design would likely earn the support of CAAPB staff and advisors if it were to retain the gatehouses, the median, and otherwise restore the architectural character. In fact, until late 2023, we questioned only the number of lanes needed, and MnDOT agreed to study the traffic further. The timeline for design, engagement, and historic reviews as a federal undertaking was carefully planned out by MnDOT to ensure that federal funding requirements were met. CAAPB staff and advisor Tony Chevalier and later Joe Faber worked with staff into 2023 to guide MnDOT toward an approach of design compatibility with the current John Ireland. And so by the time CAAPB began revving up the capital mall design framework process here in 2024, the John Ireland team was already passing through 30% design reviews, publishing preferred alternatives to the community, and was planning the final drawings. About a year ago, at the beginning of the mall framework process, the design received a finding of no adverse effects to historic resources or properties from the 106 review in a process conducted by MnDOT's Cultural Resources Unit and reviewed by the State Historic Preservation Office. And CAAPB was consulted in the 106 process. Then, here comes the Capital Mall Design Framework charrette and Community Vision this spring, and it proposed enhanced connections between the Upper Mall and Cathedral area with strong support for a more shaded promenade from Martin Luther King all the way to the west doors of the History Center. This vision was approved by the board in spring 24, and then again this summer. So the hitch, of course, that was that John Ireland that MnDOT was carefully designing for is a slightly different version that the John Ireland, which is called for in this Capital Mall Design Framework. But due to the timing in 2024, it became risky, being so late in the federal funding and historic review timelines for MnDOT to start over with engineering for a bridge design that could include the promenade and likely require some upstream changes and changes to the intersection. A delay this year could have jeopardized funding for the entire multiple bridge project. CAAPB, MnDOT, and city staff began collaborating on a solution, ultimately framed up in your approval resolution, which you are considering today. Next slide. It includes approval for the bridge structure and deck design that began its development in 2021, along with a multi-agency commitment with some resources from MnDOT to begin planning for a larger end-to-end project for John Ireland that will integrate several other public investments already in the works that impact the corridor. These plug-in projects include the Rice Street rebuild, the city's 12th Street redesign, Kellogg extension for the Capital City Bikeway. All of these plug into John Ireland. And eventual Summit Avenue improvements down the line, not to mention other upper mall improvements such as the MLK Community Commons, which, as you may remember, the charrette has earned the most votes at the charrette and is part of the Phase 1B proposed for Capital Mall Design Framework implementation. So a larger upgrade to John Ireland would also tackle condition issues on the entire corridor, address access and connectivity issues, so History Center, and allow for the city to implement portion of a new city vision for safer commuter bikeways, connecting neighborhoods to the job centers in and near the capital area. As the staff team brainstormed, it became clear that an integrated set of upgrades for John Ireland was due anyways sometime in the near future. So as you've seen, there's been some precedent for later bridge deck improvements over the underlying superstructure. This would all have to be studied to verify feasibility. The city staff who was here has provided indication they would lead the next steps of a study for the corridor, and City Public Works leadership has also provided a very early rough cut of what a corridor project could cost. Next slide. And MnDOT's bridge team has looked at some of the Sasaki concepts this summer that introduced the promenade and preserved the center median. They have also committed $500,000 available as early as July to begin studying the feasibility of retrofit to match the improvements of a full corridor in an eventual project. So, Vice Chair, we can answer clarifying questions, but we'll encourage holding on a larger discussion until Matthew has a chance to present. Today dialed in, I haven't certified or verified that we do have Anna. Yes, she is here. Dialed in as a resource, so is Dale Gotti, Matthew's partner at MnDOT. But I'll turn this over to, with your permission.
Absolutely. Turn
this over to Matthew. Thanks for the time with the context.
Thank you.
Matthew, are you good?
Yes, I am here. Thank you, Vice Chair. Peter, do I control the screen or should I say next slide?
Yep. There you go.
Next slide.
Thank you.
We just say next slide, please, and we'll Jesse's got it. Yep.
Vice Chair, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to give an update on the John Ireland Bridge project. I do have a brief presentation with a short background on the project. Next slide. Again, I'm Matt Parent. I have been the project manager for this project for about 2 years. I also have with me my boss, Dale Gotti, who can help answer any questions at the end. I will be covering the project goals and background, the existing condition of the bridge, the proposed design, and then end by touching on the project schedule. Slide. So first, I want to recap the project and the goals and parameters that were established at the beginning of the project. Next slide. A few high-level goals for the John Ireland Bridge is to extend the life of the bridge. It is deteriorating and does need to have the work proposed completed now. It is not in a condition to defer the work out, as it will become unsafe for everyone to use. There is a desire to improve the mobility for motorists and bikes and pedestrians, as well as, of course, enhancing the safety for all users. And lastly, as Peter mentioned, it is important that the design features of the bridge are preserved. Next slide. So to deliver on those high-level goals stated, there will need to be a careful disassembly of the bridge over I-94 in order to not impact some of the unique qualities of the bridge. It's important to note that this project and funding also includes work on the Marion Street Bridge, as well as 10 other bridges in the corridor. Back to John Ireland, though, we are proposing safety and cosmetic changes, including updates to the bike facilities, accessibility improvements, and railing replacements. Next slide. In addition to the goals of the project, and while designs began to develop, there were important parameters that needed to be adhered to which include designing a project that was consistent with the adopted vision for the gatehouse in the Capitol Mall, a design that complies with the current Cap Board planning and zoning requirements. We needed to pay close attention that we maintain a similar, if not identical, aesthetic to what was present today, as well as not prohibiting any future work developed via the Rethinking I-94 project. As Peter mentioned, this project also has federal funds, which has its own unique set of guidelines and timing. Next slide. So I'll touch on the existing conditions. Next slide.
Excuse me.
So next, I want to refresh what's out there today. As you can see on this slide, the current conditions are 2 lanes of traffic in each direction, 2 bike lanes on the outside of that, and then 10 feet of raised sidewalks and the 26-foot grass median. Underneath all of that is a 4-span bridge with 3 separate superstructures. It's also important to note that the bridge is currently load posted, and that was done in 2020. Next slide. So next I'll cover the traffic analysis and design. Next slide. So during final design and as a result of requests made to us by CAP board staff and the City of St. Paul, we did initiate a MnDOT funded traffic analysis to further determine how many lanes of traffic are warranted on the bridge. This slide summarizing the findings, which has been reflected in our proposed design. The analysis did prove that turn lanes were needed and all 4 lanes should be maintained. As a result of the study, we did add the striped northbound left turn lane, which was not originally planned. Slide. Depicted on this slide is the final design in its layout form. This layout illustrates the project limits to better reflect what the project entails, all of which will be constructed within the existing MnDOT right-of-way. The bridge will replace 3 separate structures to become 1 superstructure, maintaining the current 26-foot grass median. The sidewalks will be at deck level, and a barrier will be included between the bikes and pedestrians. The gatehouses will not be impacted, and we are planning on extending the project to better tie in to recent work on the John Ireland Boulevard Bridge, the John Ireland Boulevard. It's just to the left of that orange. The orange is the bridge deck. So just to the left, we're tying into recent work that was completed. Next slide. So this is a different view of the project looking towards the Capitol, and listed here are the features I touched on previously. We will have 4 lanes of traffic, the 2 bike lanes, the 2 sidewalks on each side, and then maintaining the 26-foot grass median. Next slide. This was the concept that was recommended out of the public engagement process. You can see it's very similar to what we're proposing. It's just the most notable difference is the location of the barrier. Next slide. This was also a concept from the public design or public process. Option number 3, it was similar. The barrier was lowered compared to the option that was chosen. Next slide. Again, sorry for repeating myself, but this is the design we are building or proposing to build, maintaining the northbound left traffic lane and the 26-foot grass median. Next slide. I think this is a repeat.
Repeat.
Oh, there we go. So this concept shown here is a look at the MnDOT proposed project with the concept from the Capitol Mall design framework process overlaid on top. We go to illustration at how the future vision would look compared to the current project. As stated in the future commitment memo, the concept will be taken into a feasibility study to analyze the engineering needed to make this concept work. Next. I don't think this is much. There we go. Lastly, I wanted to just bring up the schedule. As you know, we did wrap public engagement in August of 23, which included an in-person open house, a virtual open house, many pop-up events, and an online survey with the assistance from Goff Public. We took the recommended concept into final design in September, and between September and very recently, we spent many more months longer than what was initially planned so that we could work out the details of the barrier, the median consideration, as well as adding in the traffic study. We are still planning on delivering the project in spring of 2025. This was originally programmed in 24, but was adjusted to allow for more time in the preliminary design and a more robust public involvement. And as Peter mentioned, 2025 is the latest the project could be adjusted without losing its federal funding. I think that covers my presentation.
Well, thank you, Mr. Parent. Before you get into questions, I just want to applaud, as I mentioned earlier, the fact that you've taken into account the CAP board interests and design issues. So we appreciate that very, very much, and we're sure that cooperation will continue. Let me ask for anyone on the call, are there any questions for either Peter or for Mr. Parent? Seeing none? Well, that takes us to the purpose of today's meeting, which is to approve a resolution that would approve on behalf of the CAP board this current design and process. So, would you want to read the resolution for us, please?
But, and I won't read it verbatim. This is also in your memo, folks, and this would be the first portion of the resolution. By the way, that was just the summary. Got it. Thank you, Jesse. So here is the suggested board action. Simply to state that the MnDOT process met all the requirements related to CAP board staff advisory committee participation. We have a statute that requires large changes to be looked at by advisors, the advisors to advise. They have, through our memo, suggested approval of this current design with the provision that we continue to collaborate. That's really the bottom line of this resolution.
Thank you. Are there any questions with respect to the resolution?
The next. This is the second half of the resolution, which discusses a little more detail about the amendments.
Yep. So going forward, this is how we intend to operate.
Yes.
Concurrently.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Question.
No questions on that? Well, again, we appreciate the moving forward and the help of MnDOT and the city of St. Paul to make this happen. So we're very grateful for that cooperation. Are we ready to vote? Oh, I need a motion. Will someone make a motion, please, to approve this resolution? Anyone?
I move to approve the resolution.
Thank you so much. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. We're just going to take a voice vote. So all those in favor?
I can go through the roll.
You want to go the roll?
Aye.
Okay, we'll take the roll. Oh, sorry. Mr. Dahl will take the roll.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'll just quickly go through the roll. Dr. Kate Bean,
Yes.
Board Member James McLean,
Aye.
Board Member James Garrett,
Aye.
Board Member Hannah Hills,
Aye.
Board Member Melanie McMahon,
Yes.
Representative Isaac Schultz,
Aye.
Board Member Alicia Belton.
Aye.
I don't think Senator Nelson is here. Senator Sandy Pappas
Aye.
and Representative Ginny Cleaborn,
Aye.
and Vice Chair Dana Badgero.
Aye.
The motion is approved and passes.
Approved unanimously. Thank you very much. I got ahead of myself on the motion to adjourn. We do a voice vote. I just can't say enough about this is the way the system is supposed to work. This is the way we're supposed to help each other out, meet our goals, take into account all the design issues that CAP board is interested in, and make things going forward. So I know that that level of cooperation is going to continue in the future, which will be required to make this happen. So thank you all again so much. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
On this one, we will take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any opposed? Nay. We are adjourned. So thank you all very much for your attention this afternoon, and we appreciate CAP board staff once again for doing a fabulous job.
Thank you all. Have a great December.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Right. Great job.
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Nash.
Land speed.
And with that, we are going to end the live stream.
2:58.
Good job.
Nash, do you sign off on ending live stream?
And then